Welcome, Dad. Ooh, sorry.
Welcome, Dad.
Welcome, Dad. Yeah, Pops. That's a throwback. Welcome back to the Trenchless table, guys. We are at our final episode taping of season 1. And you know what I realized? We've never introduced ourselves on this podcast. Well, we did at the very early stages back when we were filming during Obacon.
Yeah.
So my name is Lee Drugan. This is Cole Andrews. This is Dustin Schlachter, if you haven't figured it out yet. And sorry, we haven't taken the time to introduce ourselves at the beginning of every podcast, but we'll do better. Part of what we're going to talk about today is the fact that this is all new to us. Well, some of us. Cole has done some podcasting in the past, but brand new to me, and learning how to shoot, edit, and all of this stuff, and just talk around the table has been a learning curve for us. I do want to kick off with a little bit of viewer feedback. I think actually it might be better. Dustin, why don't you tell us what the viewer feedback was?
The viewer feedback is we're just stuffy old dudes that aren't funny. So I know this about myself. I'm generally like the 2 days later funny kind of guy. So I'm always if I would have just said that would have been funny. Mm-hmm. That's me. But it's already, the time has passed. So, and then I forget what I was supposed to say and never get back to it. So, yeah. So, we're not funny. But the feedback on the other side is it's been really good. Mm-hmm. So, do you have a joke to kick us off with?
I do, yeah. So, for that special viewer, you know who you are out there. This one's for you. So, when I die, I want to be cremated.
Okay.
Because it'll be the last time I have a smoking hot bod.
Hit the...
Oh, yeah, it's in here, so I'll put it in after. Maybe we'll add some dad jokes in next season.
Have you seen the two dudes that are sitting, looking at each other, trying to keep a straight face, and they just go back and forth with dad jokes? It's worth a follow. Really freaking funny.
Those guys are funny.
So, try not to break stuff.
Yeah.
Future episode might be us at the conference table whispering dad jokes during a meeting, trying not to get caught.
Oof.
So just keep that in mind, because I think
do that every Friday morning anyways.
It would be hilarious, I think. Well, let's get back on track here. So we've kind of covered the fact this is the very first season, so that alludes to we're probably going to do this again because we have seen some success in this. I've liked the people that we've brought on this season. I think it's added a lot of value. The first season took a bit of a left turn for us on what we had originally planned for. And I think that's okay. I think that's part of what this platform allows for. I know Cole and I, when we were planning out what we wanted to do with the first season, and taking stuff that we've talked about before, was we really wanted to talk about going into the Trenchless industry as a young adult, but it kind of spurred into going as a young adult into any industry that use trades. So I think that's okay. But I want to kick off with maybe some things that are like a moment that all of us holds onto from season 1. Something somebody said, a takeaway that you guys are holding on to. So, yeah, I'll let Cole, why don't you kick off with the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, we had the pleasure of having Bill Martin on from Spangler Candy, president of Spangler Candy, and he talked about the upskilling program that they have, where they're able to essentially open their doors to maybe somebody that started at an entry-level position, started on the floor of any format on the floor, and allow them to gain kind of training for more knowledge to get into maybe a different role has more of a longevity to it. I think the two examples he brought in were maintenance techs, and they're actually female, which is probably unique in its nature. But I think that speaks to the fact that Spangler's been around for 100 plus years, or maybe it's right at 100 this year. And the fact that they're still trying new things. They're still bringing new things to their boardroom of, hey, we have a new generation of workforce. What are we going to do now? We have a shortage here. What are we going to do now? That spoke a lot to me just because it'd probably be really easy with something like Spangler candy to just rinse and repeat for forever and not really care about what goes on inside of your four walls as long as the candy's going out and it's being sold. But it spoke a lot to me of understanding who you have and the power of getting them in the right seats and allowing them to grow into seats, maybe at a rate that's not too fast or too slow, but it's thought out. It's methodical, but it's intentional in nature. So I thought that was really awesome.
I guess my takeaway from this year is something that Gershon said, which was at their company, they don't fail. Failure isn't an option for them. It's, I just think that was a really powerful statement of something that's really interesting to live by. And that something I don't really carry in my mind as much as I think I probably should. I think, Cole, you're much better at that self-talk than I am about, we're going to do this. It's going to be awesome. We'll do whatever we can to succeed. Where I guess I'm more on the other side, which is interesting because my year goal for this year, what we said at the beginning of the year was positivity. That's the word that I wrote down on my goal. And so I've been trying to do that more, but that really struck me. That struck a chord with me on I need to be more like that, where failure isn't an option. We're going to do whatever we can to make it something. And success can mean many different things, and it can change.
I think that's fantastic because that is really, that's exactly the conversation I had this morning with Kevin. And when we started, no wasn't an option, right? Can't isn't something that we say it can't be done. That isn't something that successful businesses are built on. And if Spangler ever said, we can't do this program, this upskilling program, that doesn't work for them. And failure is not an option for Gershon. And so I think to be successful in just business and life, you kind of have to have a little bit of that mindset of, sometimes the water gets rough, but we're going to get through it regardless. And so that's a really good point that you picked up from him.
And in the construction industry. So you've obviously been around the block far more than Lee and I in the construction industry, but things go awry daily, like really awry. Things aren't always documented underground, different utilities that we might be born into or whatever, rocks, boulders, everything else. But to have that mentality, it probably looks different a little bit every single day of not failing. It doesn't mean hitting home runs and grand slams every day. You could be a running back in the NFL, and if you fall forward for an extra 3 yards every single run, you're probably averaging over 1,000 yards per year, and you're on track to be a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Like that's the framing of we're not going to fail. No, we're not going to hit a grand slam every single day, but we're also not going to fall forward. We're not going to fall backward. And so in construction, I think a lot of it is not making the big mistake.
Right. It's blocking and tackling, and you can win and you can lose. But I like to say, what did we win on, and what did we learn at? And so it's reframing. Hey, some days suck, some days are hard, but to be successful in anything, you have to learn from those failures, the problems that arrive if you're in business, in sports, in life, parenting, right? Only been at it for 13 years and still learning every day. And it's not a failure unless you fail to learn.
Yeah. Good point too. We forgot to bring up. Congratulations, Cole.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're doing well. You look like you got some sleep a little bit.
She's doing well. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Little girl's 3 weeks old today. No, doesn't matter. 3 weeks and some change. But she's doing really well. Healthy. Mama is pretty much carrying the slack for me. So we'll take it.
Yeah. I saw you guys trotting around the Jubilee downtown this last weekend. And it was a hot one. So
as a true Brianite, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's something that Dustin, you got to kick us off with yours. So what was your takeaway?
So I know we were supposed to only have one, but I didn't have two. So
Overachiever.
I know. Well, one was just feedback, right? So one of the feedback that I got from one of the young viewers is they just liked hearing the stories because I think the story of how you get from A to B isn't always the same. And so we've gotten a lot of good positive feedback because these young people don't know how to get from high school to a CEO or into one of these other positions that they have their sights on. So to hear those stories, I think that's one thing that was a positive takeaway that was good feedback. The thing that I took away from the conversation with Jason Beals was shut up and listen. And he probably said it more elegantly than that. But, as leaders, it's hard to do that and just shut up. And I don't know if I just like to hear myself talk. Some of the most successful business meetings I've been involved in are the ones where I really don't talk and then go around. Everybody has kind of worked out the solutions and then add feedback at the end. But some of the best lessons learned are when I've not been the guy talking. And so that was good feedback, good reminder for me that I need to practice more. So you guys know I'm not great at that. I've always got something to say. And so something I need to practice at and work on. And we have a lot of really good team members here and a lot of people that care and are working really hard. And so sometimes I don't need to say anything. It just feels like maybe I should. So I'm going to practice that, work on it. Yeah, sometimes I get too excited and want to run. And if you haven't done this yet, ask Chat GPT about yourself. I think you threw me onto this one. And so I went down the rabbit hole the other day and said, analyze our conversations and tell me about myself, right? And then I said, tell me something that is, what was the term?
Tell me my faults.
Tell me my faults. Yes, thank you. So I asked Chat my faults, and it said the exact terminology left the brain right now.
It was like big vision, no details.
No detail. Big vision, yes.
Yeah,
That
big vision, no detail.
Chat came back and said, you have a big vision and you're not good at details. Yes, I know this. I understand. You're speaking to me. And so the AI already has put a pin in my personality. Have a vision and not good at details.
And something to go back to Jason Beals here in the episode that he didn't say so eloquently, but also struck a chord with me was a simple mantra or reminder to himself of get off your ass.
Yeah.
And it's not get off your ass and work hard. It was what he was alluding to was everybody else typically in a business outside of maybe your C-level management really knows what's going on. And so he's making a point to get on the floor, have conversations, just observe some sort of processes, listen. I thought that was really nice to hear, only because another perceivably thriving business, we talked about some growth opportunities that they have coming up. And it would be, they're fasteners.
Mm-hmm.
People are using screws and fasteners every single day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a rinse and repeat sort of process for the CEO to get fat and happy, not physically, but to be okay with what we're doing. But if he's a guy like him is making a point to get out of his corner office and get down to the floor to understand the ecosystem of what's going on there, it spoke a lot to me of leadership isn't just lip service, but it's movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points.
And it's understanding. Like you were alluding to a little bit was there's a lot that goes on outside of the rose-colored glasses that people in management positions see. They They like to see things that are good to talk about, and sometimes getting out on the floor, especially in a manufacturing facility, you'll see different things, and you'll understand better the processes that actually need to happen, not just the ones that sound good for momentum.
And
At
that,
least from
that points to Obic. Trey, director of corporate training, has traveled around nearly the whole spring and summer, just getting on the floor, getting in the field to make sure the field is carrying out what we say here in our collared shirts in the office that we do. And so that kind of, to bring it back to the trades, that's how the trades are on the floor. It's sending inspectors. It's sending not just to piggyback and overlook and Big Brother sites, but it's truly just to ensure that what we're selling, what we're saying, what you're advertising, what you're putting your stamp on to pay people, that we're doing out in the field, and we're taking pride in what we're doing, and we're not failing.
And quite frankly, in our industry, it can be life or death or severe injury if people aren't getting that feedback. I think one thing that we learned, that we all learned at the table this season, was that it's crucial for businesses around here to build relationships like we've done. And it's interesting to me that it took a podcast, it took a table to get these people to come in to our facility and learn about us, even though we're all in the same small town. I wish there was, I know there's things like Wedco and all of those organizations that get these people together, but I don't feel like you get to really have true conversation about what's going on. And really, I don't even think that we've gotten good at having true conversation at the table yet with other businesses. And because I think we wanted to make sure that it stayed positive, that we moved in the right direction. But I think this is a really good platform for in the future that we can then bring companies in and have those real life. These are the problems that we're facing. And yeah, we're facing them too. How can we figure that out? I think that would be a great conversation to have. And we haven't had that yet. But I think building those relationships in town, although some of them were a little weird to bring to a construction industry, Spangler comes to mind. But if you think about it, in the marketing field, we're always looking for things that are on brand, things that take trade shows. So dum-dums, orange dum-dums are probably going to be top of my list with some things that we take to shows. Something I probably wouldn't have put together this quickly if we hadn't done the podcast with Bill. And then hopefully on the other side of it, Spangler now knows that we do a spray polyurea that can be used in things like secondary containment or clean room applications. So if they're building on, if they're doing something else, I hope they think of us first. I think a lot of small towns could use a platform of something like this, or, maybe the organizations get better at bringing smaller groups to a table like this to have those conversations.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So one of the things since we started in business here, I've traveled to Columbus for masterminds on a Friday once a month. I travel tomorrow morning. I'm going to Toledo for UT Business Center has affinity groups that are that type of mastermind group. And getting people around a table to have conversations has been kind of really challenging in Bryan. So having grown up here, that's the first time I've really sat down with some of these people that we've had on to have a conversation. I have those conversations with lots of people, but having the ability to sit down, get to know them, get to know their story, and hear a little piece of how they got where they're at was great. But building relationships, I think, is critical in every community, in every business. No matter where you're at in a business, there's opportunities for connection and mentorship. And I think it's just been really, I don't know, and probably a fault of my own for not trying also. But I think it's a lot of people think that businesses are going to give up too much information. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different widget. I'm not going into the candy business. I'm not going to go into restaurant business. It's a different widget, but all businesses have the same problem. It has people, it has a product, it has service, and when it peels the onion back, we're all the same. Businesses are all the same. It's just, who are we serving? And so it's been great to get to know the people and learn a little bit about their story, but also now it opens the opportunity up for more connections, more opportunities to work together, collaboration, because the door's open. And in 25 years, I really haven't had that. So it's good to build that locally here now. We have them. I have them in other areas with people from the Trenchless industry, because we go to trade shows a lot and spend a lot of time with those people. And so a lot of those mentors are outside of Northwest Ohio, which with technology, they're a Zoom call away.
Mm-hmm.
If you need something, you got questions, and they're all happy to help. So having the door open is a great opportunity, I think. And I think it'll just build on more opportunities.
In the first 25 years of business, you were the young guy at the table.
Yeah.
Not calling you old, but now on the other side of that 25,
I'm still young.
of
It's
that
okay.
first 25, now you're in a different stature, right?
Yeah.
And so you're probably not realizing that you're alluding to the fact that you're now probably taking on a leadership role and probably maybe going to change some things of that connection in the community and what that looks like for our business and the leadership to be the figurehead of that connection and not just part of the team, but really leading it from the front, the leader's pull mentality.
Yeah.
That's what I hear you say when you say that.
You know, when I was starting in business, one of the things I always thought of was, and I can remember saying this time and time again, I'm not going to get any respect in this industry until I'm 30. I don't know why that was the magical number. I thought, when I turn 30, I'm going to know something. And I remember saying that to our Baroid sales guy back then. And so I was talking with John one day, and he's like, Dustin, you're wrong. It's not going to take you to a magical age. It's not a number that makes you have influence and leadership skills. It's just your innate ability. And so I always thought, well, I'm not going to know anything until I'm 30. And I'm past 30 now. I still don't feel like I know anything because we're learning every day. But I think you're right. Some of those things are going to change, and more hours in the seat have added a few gray hairs, but also some experience to talk about. You know, it goes to your analogy, Cole, that you talk about how you can see synergies in athletics and leadership and how that carries forward. So what maybe some of these kids that are listening, young adults listening, don't realize is all of the things you're learning on the field, on the court, whatever it might be, it really transcends into who you become in whatever profession you get. And we see it here when somebody's just a natural born athlete, the ability for them to be fluid in construction and have knowledge and experience grow really fast because they can intermix that training and just from athletics to translate it into being a productive, well put together human being.
Yeah, I think how I boil it down, and I'm not the end all be all right answer of this, but an athlete is able to see the many, or has to see, not maybe able, they have to grow this muscle to see they're at point A and they need to get to Z. There's not a bunch of skip steps that they're able to take to get to the end of the alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go dink and dunk through these steps so that it builds and it builds and it builds. And that's just like a construction day. There's typically never any corners to cut. And that's why I've seen just in 2 years here, the correlation super quick between an athletic mindset from childhood, growing up in sports and understanding what it takes to be great and what you've seen your teammates or maybe you've watched college or professional and what it takes to get it. It correlates genuinely to here. If we're laying out a week or we're laying out a day, it's the same stuff. It's step by step by step, and that's where the aptitude of athlete to the trades translates at a high level.
So what is something that you would say to a young adult looking for a new profession or that next profession, now that we've sat around this table for a little while and talked to some different people, and everything in your background, what is something that you would tell them now?
It's directly to me. Do you have anything?
I
think
I want your perspective on this one. That's a good question for you, Cole.
I get these questions from players. Probably not enough here lately, just with being aloof with the new baby at home. But guys will pull me aside and ask little questions about their plans, and usually their plans are just half baked. What I mean by that is like, I think I'm going to do this. And it's like, okay, but what are you going to do with that? Or where do you want to end up? And the answer is usually kind of the conversation trails off, and I don't know is really what they're trying to say without having their ego totally hit. And that's fine. I think it's learning, and this is something I didn't do well in my early 20s. Mine was mainly for survival. I needed a check, but it was learning how all the different muscles of the body, if you will, for an analogy of the business worked. I hopped into moving industry, residential and commercial moving. And it took me a long time to understand how all the other facets of the business all work together. And I think if I was looking at it sooner, I would have understood, and I probably would have elevated at a way quicker rate than staying in that grunt position. Not that I didn't enjoy that in my early 20s. I was able to actually use athleticism and just physicality to make money, which was fine. But my mind was way past the physical work that I was doing at the time, but I wasn't smart enough in the moment to look at all the different arms of the business, understand how they work together, and then now analyze myself and see my skill set and see, oh man, I could actually add value here at a way higher rate than what I'm seeing happen. I'm going to pursue that. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to insert myself or maybe even create a role and present that. Further down the road, I was able to do some things like that, but that's what I would say is start to look at wherever you're at, start to look at what's going on around that makes the whole thing work. Whether that's right or not.
No, I think you're right, because you got to look at the big picture. And young men and women don't think big picture because they don't know, right? They don't have enough experience and years under their belt to say, hey, look for XYZ when you're in your position, see how the rest of it's operating and digest it. It's not a conversation anybody has in high school, right? Hey, how'd you do on your math test? How'd you do on your science test? Did you study? What are you learning? They're not learning the analytics of that type of thinking in school. That's not what we're training them for, right? Schools are pumping out people that are worker bees, not thinkers. And so that's the unfortunate situation we're all in until somebody or yourself opens that trigger and sees it for themselves. And then they start to go, oh, okay, that's really what I should have been doing.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And ironically enough, my moment was a podcast. Yeah. Like full circle, we're talking on a podcast, but I was introduced to a couple different dudes through podcasting that really got me to understand kind of a second level or a third level of thinking and not just la-di-da-di-da, go about my day, now I'm done, now I go home, etc. It's probably a little more stressful to think into that second and third level, but it's definitely where the growth is, and it's definitely where I want to be.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Dustin? What would you tell an 18-year-old right now?
If you don't know, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kick the can, pause. Don't make really expensive mistakes doing what you think is right based on the cultural aspect of, hey, you should just go to college. Taking a break, jumping around, a couple jobs, figure out what you like, figure out what you don't know, and then start learning. And so Sometimes, to Cole's point, they just don't know. I'm going to college, but I'm undecided. That's an expensive ride to go someplace where you don't know where you're going. When I was 18, I didn't have a big vision or a plan for the future either. It took some time to get that mindset open and really dive into that. But I would just want the kids to hit the pause button, think about what that vision for their future looks like. What do you enjoy? Jason Beals was going to be a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up coming out with a finance degree and a completely different trajectory. Probably the right trajectory because he's doing well, but he really didn't want to spend that much time to get to that point. If you're going to go be a doctor, great, you should. And go all in, get it done, 8-10 years of schooling, you need that. But if you don't know, don't make an expensive decision just because it's what you're going to, down the road, regret. One of the new guys I had a conversation last week with, and it was just explaining to him, like, you've made a man-sized decision to go directly from school into the field. You're going to do really well. You're going to be super successful. And I kind of did my little chart and drew out my my hand sketch of trajectory of where he can land on a continuum of the next 10, 20 years, so he could see see the vision of where he can land versus some of the kids that are going direct to college, and how he's going to be 4, 5, 6 years ahead of life decisions and life opportunities, probably making more money than some of them, but not having the debt over his head also. And so I wish there was a way to explain that really well to the masses. Maybe the Trenchless table is going to be the mass, the massive communicator that gets that out there to all these kids that need to know it, but it's just not what they're learning in school.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm probably the poster child of making those decisions, going to college and having college debt. You know, my parents were in that perfect line of don't make enough to write me a check for it, but they also make too much for me to get a lot of assistance.
Yeah.
So it was take on all of the debt myself, and my wife very much in the same boat, became a teacher, and they don't get paid a lot to go to a private school for college. So if you're planning on being a teacher, don't go private school. Go to a public school. Be a little less expensive for you. I think I just had this conversation with my son. We spend a lot of time in the car right now going to and from practices, and he was asking me, there was a song on called Bloodline. So he was asking me what that meant and what is bloodline, like what is a bloodline? And I said, well, it's your family. And the whole premise of the story is like, you don't have to follow your bloodline. And I think that's important even now for kids in high school. It really doesn't matter what your family does. If you have a different idea of what you want for your life, whether it's going down a family business or not, I just think you have to do it with purpose. If you want to eventually take over the family business, engulf yourself in it. Understand every aspect, like you're talking about, Cole. Understanding the business side, understanding the decisions that people make. We talk to a lot of generational family businesses on this podcast, and I think that's the one thing that I realized through family businesses were that it seems like none of them really had a next generation leader coming up in that family business. And I don't know if it's because they think college has to be the way to go. I don't think, Dustin, down the road, you're going to make one of your kids go to college if they want to help with the family business. I think it's going to be, well, you can talk to it, but my assumption of you is that you're going to be like, come in and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some certain classes that I would suggest they take, right? So there's probably some accounting classes they need. We're probably not going to pay for pottery class, and we're probably not paying for intramural basket weaving or badminton or basketball or any of that stuff, right? That's ridiculous. And if any of my kids hear this, my expectation for them would be that they got to work harder than the rest, because there's so many stories of second generations kind of riding the tide, third generation crashes the boat. And I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure that we avoid that at all costs. We want this to continue in some capacity, if it's with them or with somebody else, because in the next 20 years, we could have a couple hundred people running around here. And that's a lot of mouths to feed and people to take care of. That's a lot of responsibility. So it takes a while to get the ability to have that leadership ability to have that type of responsibility. And so it's going to be a challenge for them or anybody that does come in for that next generation to learn what that looks like, how to be a good leader, and all the facets of the businesses at that time. But it is hands-on. You can learn it all. Everything's learnable under the sun. You don't have to go to school for it anymore. You can learn it. You can read about it, listen podcasts, YouTube, and then just getting your hands dirty.
The field, yeah. The last part, getting your hands dirty. The field is the fastest teacher in the world.
Absolutely.
The fastest, we'll probably see it with a couple of the 18, 19-year-old guys we have floating around. They're going to grow up in the next several weeks faster than they would have realized that they ever could. Saw it with myself. I've seen it in others. The field is the fastest teacher, and you're able to learn so much because typically they're very long days. They're not similar in any way, shape, or form. And you're out on your own to an extent. No one's coming to save you mentality, but that's true. As cliche as it's become in our scrolling through the old TikTok feed of no one's coming to save you voiceovers, no one's coming to save the guys and girls, if we ever have any, in the field. They have to figure it out. And so that would be, to round out the whole conversation, is get in the field. If you want to learn an industry, get in the field. I still have an aspiration, probably after soccer season is over, to take a week and go in the field and be a top guy or clean manholes or something of the nature, so that I can more fully immerse myself in the understanding of what we do here, why and how, and et cetera. But get in the field is the biggest and quickest teacher you could ever have.
And normalize continued education after that from a company's perspective. I think it's great when companies offer up, oh, you want to learn about that skill? Perfect. Let's figure that out. You don't have to have a degree coming in, but you could very much leave with the same mental capacity that you would have if you would have went to a 4-year school, and probably even more because you have application success as well, not just in classroom. So,
yeah, I think I'm an anomaly, though, in some ways, because I have a 2-year degree, and so by all standards, to do what we're doing with a 2-year degree would be, most people would find that unachievable. And so I really think that getting in the field, learning, figuring out how to lead, doing it wrong, lessons learned, right? You didn't lose, you just had to learn. And in the failures, we learned so much. And so I don't know how to teach that part, though. How do you teach past the really tough days when the key collector's here and things are going south in a hurry? I don't know how to teach that intellectual part of it, where you've learned so much through the tough times. So hopefully we can figure that out, where we can avoid some of those tough lessons learned for future generations. maybe that's something we dive into at some point, and we peel the onion back on that. But I don't know how to fix it. But it's great learning in the tough times.
The cool thing about life is that more often than not, you wake up the next day and you can continue on no matter what happens today. So key collectors here today, you're going to still wake up tomorrow. So it'll be all right.
Yeah, unless you get a smoking hot bod on.
Unless you get a smoking hot bod, then you're not waking up. But that's okay. Let's talk a little about what's to come with season 2. One thing that we weren't really good about was talking about the trenchless industry. So sorry about that to all those guys looking for trenchless content, but that is the goal for season 2, is to really dive into what we've learned in season 1 and apply it to the trenchless industry. Something that's really cool that we found was a really old water pipe laying around here, and we'll eventually have it sitting right here on the table to talk about. But that's the kind of content that we want to get into now. So what do you guys want to get out of season 2? Let's just put it out there on air right now. Speak it into existence a little bit.
Yeah, I think we've kind of danced around the 3 brands that are here, but just giving more light to who and what advanced rehabilitation technology is, who and what OBIC is as a product manufacturer and supplier, and also a big support mechanism. We were just having a conversation prior to recording here where we had an opportunity to support an OBIC installer in a very unique way. So who and what OBIC is. And then lastly, the tried and true, the start of pretty much the whole thing was who and what SNS directional boring is and how it's kind of changed and morphed over the years and what it is today and where it's going. And it's hired X amount of guys, probably 20 in the last 2 years. And that's pretty rampant growth for a construction industry, especially when they were happy and maintaining at the time.
Yep.
That'd be a big goal of mine because we talk about trenchless industry. We are the trenchless industry, and I want to know what's going on with these brands, where we're going, how we've gotten here, some of the problems that we've ran into. That'd be a big focus of mine in season 2.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of my close friendships are at, or from going to trade shows and building relationships with people in the trades. And so I want to dive into some of those spaces with those individuals that are fixing the pipes also and fixing the underground infrastructure alongside us. And how do we get from wood water lines to where we're at today? Like, that's finding that hidden treasure is a big deal. And I can't wait to show that off because it's hard to believe that that's how 50, 60, 70 years ago, people are still getting water that way.
Say it again. What kind of water line?
Wood.
Yeah. Freaking
So
crazy.
I can't wait to put that on the table and show people because that was reality. It's the best they had back then. 100 years ago, well, it's a big tree. We could make something out of that. And they did it. And it was ingenious. And it worked really well for a long time until they came up with ductile and steel and PVC and HDPE and all the other things. So just really looking forward to diving in with some of those trade partners that are out there that we've shoulder tapped in order to get them here and have the conversation.
I really want people to understand how important it is with the work that we do. I think that's the one thing I want to get out of season 2 is that without companies like our 3 companies, you really wouldn't be able to flush a toilet anymore because infrastructure wouldn't support it. I mean, we have so many manholes that are deteriorating, pipes that are clogged. So alongside the everyday frontline guys, which I consider plumbers, those plumbers got to give them all the credit because they do great work in making sure things are flowing. But if we weren't out there rehabbing these structures, putting new infrastructure in the ground, wouldn't have clean water and wastewater wouldn't have anywhere to go. So that's the point I am hoping to get across in season 2. And the fact that it can be a really great field to work in.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? It's always going to be there.
People only care about what we do if the water stops coming in their house or stops leaving their house. Other than that, we're kind of sight unseen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really know what we do, and that's okay. But it's critical. It is life-sustaining that your water leaves your house. You can't live with that in your house. You need it to come in so that you can do hygiene and other things and eat and cook and nobody really thinks about it until it's a problem. And so we're the defenders against the inevitable. Sooner or later, there's going to be a problem, and the trades are going to fix it.
Now, we were going to split this into two, but I think we can get this done pretty quick because I know you got to wrap up here in a couple minutes.
Yep.
OBIC in the future,
Mm-hmm.
kind of some big announcements.
Yeah.
OBIC is going international full force. And it's all because Dustin went to Rokatech.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Rokatech and your vision with OBIC and how we are, well, how you're giving me gray hairs now.
Well, we talked about it earlier on, big vision, lack of details. So probably not a lot of details of how we're going to get there yet, but going to Rokatech was a real eye-opener.
What's Rokatech?
Rokatech is a international trade show in Germany. And so very large international show that many people from Europe, Asian, Southeast Asia, Pacific, Australia, all attend. A lot of people from the States go over there because they've got a lot of new technologies over there that we're not using here. And so they're there to collaborate and learn about what's new and up and coming from some of those forward-thinking communities and companies building new technology. So at the trade show, it was first time in Germany for me, first time in Europe, and I did zero sightseeing other than 170 mile an hour down the Autobahn to get to Kassel where the show was at. And so maybe it was sleep deprivation, maybe it was just the excitement of being there, but it really opened my eyes when I saw the opportunity just in Europe alone. I think I needed to be there in order to see the opportunity. I knew it was there, but not in full force until you immerse yourself in it. So Europe, roughly 100 million more people, population than the United States. So they have older infrastructure, more people, less square footage or square miles of land mass than the United States. So the need is greater for what we do. And nobody in Europe is doing OBIC yet in a big way. And so OBIC's going to do it in a big way. We're going to move fast. We've got 4 installers currently on the books, a couple more. And so we're going to be firing on all cylinders in the next 10 years there. I think the opportunity in Europe is probably greater than the United States. And we're here to help make that become a reality. And being there, I saw it. And now we are, like Lee said, full force ahead, figuring it out. What does that look like? I don't have a clue, but we're going to get it done.
Failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option, but 100 trucks in Europe absolutely is an option.
Yes, it is.
When you say gray hairs, expound on that.
Gray hairs is in exactly how this podcast started, exactly how Dustin does business. If you don't know how Dustin does business, he's like, yeah, let's just do it.
Big vision, lack of details.
His thought process.
ChatGPT knows.
Yeah, his thought process was, we're going to Europe, and he said, how soon can we get this done? And with doing business in Europe, it's a little different than the U.S. So on the marketing side, there's a lot of things that we have to make sure that we do. Not only that, but the geographic size in comparison to the U.S. When Dustin says, I want to have 10 more trucks than the U.S., I wouldn't really bat an eye at that, because in order to go out and find installers in that area, it's fine. We all speak the same language. if Dustin says, I want to have 100 trucks in Europe, okay, but how many languages does that now mean that we have to translate marketing material, trade shows in that space, branding, just all of that stuff across the board is compounded on. Now, not complaining, that's just where my gray hairs are coming from, because now taking marketing into those things, you have to worry about what you say, how you say it, does it translate correctly? Do we have the right people in the right seats to understand technical documentation like we have with pressures and formulas and all of that stuff? So that's the part we're at right now, is let's get that framework in place so that the launch can be successful, because if you don't do it right the first time, it's a little bit expensive the second time you try to go in and infiltrate a market, especially now that you announced that you're going in there. Other competitors of ours might be like, oh, well, we see a need there too.
I'm glad you answered it that way. That's exactly how I wanted you to answer it, because the correlation I'm trying to make is your explanation just sounded like something somebody from Silicon Valley or a tech startup would say, but that's marketing for a trenchless industry product provider. Like what I'm saying is we get back to the 18-year-old that's almost said retiring. The 18-year-old that's graduating here last couple weeks. It's not just Silicon Valley and tech startups that have that sort of mindset around marketing and those sort of nuances that they're tackling. It's product in Trenchless technology space that is trying to do new and big things.
Well, we just talked about it. Nobody knows what we do until there's a problem. So that's the part we face all the time. We do these funny videos so that somebody who doesn't give two craps about anything after they, flush the toilet, actually care. Actually think about, well, what do they do at this company that is in Bryan, Ohio, on the outskirts of Bryan, Ohio? That's what I'm trying to do now, just on an international space too. So the sooner you can learn German so we can do some funny videos in German.
Football is a universal language.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I'll say.
Yes.
So one of the hardest things at Rokotech was the communication, right? Because you're immersed in their world. So it's in Germany, but we're fortunate that we speak English. Really, that is the international language of business is English. And two quick stories. One was watching Roland, my German rep, speak English to the Czechoslovakian interpreter that was speaking Czech to the owner of the company. And so I'm watching them speak back and forth while she's translating into Czech. We can't understand what he's saying, but we can speak English to her. So I have a German speaking English to Czechoslovakian, and it was amazing to watch that that banter go back and forth. And the other one, super thankful for technology because it made it so much easier. When three business people are like this on their phones, usually that's not a good sign, except when you're using Google Translate. And it was a lifesaver because I could communicate to a couple from Italy that spoke a little bit of English, but it was with a heavy accent, so I was struggling just understanding where they were going. But with the use of technology, it made it so much easier that all three of us were having a conversation. They're answering me, I'm answering them. We're asking each other questions and working through technology in that situation, absolute lifesaver. So it helps and it hurts having technology.
Real quick, how many cups of coffee while in Germany did you consume?
Okay.
I had probably no less than 10 espressos a day.
It's ridiculous.
It was awesome. Every time I went by the machine, I thought I was having another one. So
If anybody wonders why he came back with world domination on his mind, it's because he was running full speed on caffeine.
absolutely. And the late nights, early mornings, I got a call from our banker. It was, we're 6 hours ahead there, so 5 o'clock here. And so that's 12 o'clock, right? Phone rings. Zzz, zzz. it's the banker. I don't really want to take that call at midnight here. So I, sidebar, but then I'm awake for another couple hours. So then you start at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and caffeine is awesome.
Second question, how many cigarettes consumed?
It's amazing. Everybody smokes there. So it's secondhand all day long. Every time you walk out, you're in a cloud of it. Out of the exhibit hall, there's a crowd of 30 or 40 people just puffing. And it's wild. And their marketing, they show you how nasty it is on their marketing. You've got to look at that pack with someone's half jog on or throat out, and just it shows you black lung disease and things like that in their marketing. And everybody does it. It's amazing.
Well,
Now we can wrap up.
now we can wrap up.
I was curious.
Yeah. Now we get, well, what Cole was alluding to is we were getting lots of pictures from Dustin while he was in Europe because he was just excited about being there and everything that was going on, and the espresso machine and the popcorn machine, and he was making popcorn.
Hey, when you're not good at speaking foreign language, I took French in high school because that's what all the girls were taking, and I don't remember any of it.
Mhm.
I didn't get a date either, but double whammy. You lost twice, but I'm good at making popcorn now and espressos.
And Obic is now going international.
In a big way, in a hurry. We've
Yes.
got 10 years to get to 100 over there.
So great way to end. Thank you guys for joining us at the table for this season. Look out for season 2.